Testing 1, 2. Hey, it looks like it's working. Good morning. Where are we today? August 15th? That sound like a good day? Yeah, we'll go with that. There we go. We'll start with mid DDQ today. See what that gives us. This is Night 7. Don't know if I played this person, but a review nonetheless. Against Reneto, both 17Q here. Seems like it was somewhat of an interesting game. Standard rules, resignation. Alright. Let's see what 17Q has in store for us today. Alright. So, standard opening. I think we covered just slight variations previously, but I would say as DDQ, this is good to stick to. You could even throw in a 3-3 instead of a 3-4 if you wanted to. But these are all the nice standard forms, all approved by AI, so I think we're moving in the right direction here. This is nice and brave, preferred opening. I guess as far as AI goes, this is the new variation. There's some reasons for this, but overall you just kind of want to stretch out just far enough on the third line here. Not a lot of points for black as it is. This is pretty much how it played out anyways, but one of the biggest things we worry about is this cut here is when you go up one more, this is a lot less threatening to peep in here. This could be ignored, and if black takes the peep, there's a lot of other variations that are possible here that could keep white alive on both sides. Over on this side, if white ignores this, we do have a little bit of an issue that's a little difficult for white to get around. And it will lead to some clumpy dumpling shapes. Yeah. We like ladders. Ladders are good. Ladders are healthy. So this is good. Go out 4. This is a lot of people actually neglect this, and they don't go out far enough. We've actually covered this previously. So if black gets the next move, this is actually very detrimental to development. And white's actually going to have a lot of problems with this. The double honey in this situation. Well, to say there's a lot of things that lead up to this, but just say sometimes you feel you're safe. And this is actually quite common. You feel you're safe because you have these walls, and unfortunately, you're no longer safe because of all the forcing moves that are involved here. This is actually more common than you'd think. And this came back to a previous discussion of how many stones is the right amount of stones. Well, it appears 4 is around the magic number here, depending on what you have going around it as well. But likewise, this double Hane with even 3 is very, very problematic. If we take it one more and black does the Hane as well, it doesn't have the same effect as before because there's no liberty shortage in here. There's a lot that one can do with this, and black's not going to be too happy about it. Of course, depending on surrounding stones. But before, if this was just 3 stones, you'd run into your liberty shortage, and now it's things are looking pretty happy. With the way things are developing here. So white can live here, white can get some good influence here, and black's getting pushed back into the side. And that's not what we want to happen. And this string of stones, not saying that it's dead, we're not going to count anything as dead this early in a game, but you know, when it comes to this, it's very easy to dirty things up, but it's going to get dirty in a way that you're not going to die right away due to liberty shortages everywhere. So 4 is really the magic number with this. And not a bad approach here. Having the kick is pretty good. Black extended well enough. That's the preferred amount of spaces to extend from this. One thing that you're going to run into though, and especially when you get into stronger players, is trying to know how far you should stretch as opposed to how far you could stretch. When you're playing even enough, well, yeah, cuts are pretty good for, especially if you're an AI, because AI could read all the variations. So in a situation like this, it prevents a lot of things from happening here, and this here is a lot more plausible when you go 4 spaces. And this is going to be quite common when DDQ go up against SDQ. They're going to be able to see things like this, and they're going to make an effort to try and tear things apart. Like this is incredibly big for black to have life. 2 Panokis, this is going to be quite even. They say Panoki is actually worth like 30 points. I haven't done a complete analysis on that to know if that's true, but you know, all these years, I think there's something to be said about that. But it also inhibits white from jumping in here because you now have a fair wall with life. 30 points in the center it's worth, right? So we have 2 sides here, so we're going to say it's worth, what, 15? 10 points? Either way. It's good life. It's a good thing to have. Like, this is fantastic shape. So this is what they're going to go against, and now white's getting a little more cramped in here, where black has a lot more of the open side. Of course. So yeah, so the difference between 3 and 4 here, it is negligible. It does change the game just slightly, but slightly enough that right now, if white gets this nice and solid, then black's on the slightly more cramped side. So pincers, that's pretty good. Not a lot of people like the pincer. I try and avoid it. It does cause a few issues. The biggest issue that you have when you pincer is the extra groups you're going to have on the board. And one thing to do, especially as a DDK, is try and have the fewest amount of groups. If you do an analysis, like just take any random game that's lost and count how many groups one opponent had as opposed to the other, and you'll find that whoever had more groups on the board tends to lose more often. Not always. There's always the strength factor in there and everything else, but you know, this is a fairly even game, so if it's 5 against 4, well, it's 4 is stronger than 5 because of just the amount of stones required to start defending. Fair stretch. This is proper. This might be a little too far because there is a move in the middle here that can cause issues, and right now white is going for the first eye, taking the corner. Alright, so when things play out like this, right now, Fuseki was still happening all the way up until this little bit of a skirmish. This skirmish is what creates some issues. The first thing that happened is an attack. An attack happened when you're not quite established. But that's not always a bad thing, because these are 2 individual groups that are that aren't quite established yet, so it's chances are something could die a bit quicker than you want. Typically what you would do is you would come back and try and make some extra space here. White's going to come in for the eye, that's not a problem. You don't mind giving your opponent space. But as your opponent runs for anything, this is only going to be worth about 5 or 6 points. And while that was happening, black got to develop a lot of solid territory here, with this being a little undefined. For example, though, before this move here, what's common is every once in a while this gets left as somewhat decided. So if it was left as somewhat decided, white Tanukis, then we have black come in for the same move. Well, this is now completely different when black comes in for the same move, because black is more established here. This one extra stone does make that much different when you want to attack something. So if you're going to attack, you have to keep pressing and keep creating as many cutting moves as possible. And that's kind of what happened here. And when it does happen, first of all, you have to extend the right amount of stones. So 4 is going to be acceptable here. And we are going to keep an eye on this one, because this cutting stone from here has lost the majority of its Aji. Enough where it's not going to have much of an issue. But it's this one here. You have to be ready to be prepared to sacrifice. As a DDQ, DDQs don't like to sacrifice too much, and that's understandable. You know, it does seem like a lot, especially to the untrained eye, but really, the extra move it takes to knock this out, and for what black can get out of it, white only gets about 5 points. And yeah, that could be a game-deciding 5 points, but for the most part, if you tried to save this and this, something else is going to collapse. If you could sacrifice a large group and still win, then that's even better, like the game I played yesterday. But yeah, I should have lost a lot worse than that, but that's okay. That's neither here nor there. But yeah, so the extra stone does come in handy. It's customary to make sure you're alive before you try and kill something. And I guess that's kind of what this does as well. But it's kind of too late, because with this you're behind one move, and all you're doing now is just forcing white to live. And it's not going to play out the same. You're not going to have the same kind of experience through this. So the Aji in this stone is that much more. There's some pressing that can happen in here. It still looks kind of big. But I would rather have that stone here, just to prevent any form of shenanigans actually happening. Because with an open space like this, a lot can happen. And with this, white's actually not going to come back here now, because that's very open and attackable. White would be comfortably alive here. So probably just take a line in. Maybe just a bit deeper. This is the lonely stone. That might be just enough, because what you want to do is not necessarily save the stone, but play towards the stone. And in this situation, it might actually work, and then you have a cut and a cut to contend with. But you know, why go through all that trouble? Why worry about all those possibilities? And sometimes it's better just to ignore and carry on. But the attack happened, and now what's going on? This here is dividing these two groups, and it's going to make it very difficult for the attacks. And again, this cut's happening, but this stone is not developed yet. This stone doesn't have much going on. Maybe something like this. Do that first, and then come back and... Whoops. That was a misclick. And then you just gotta hope that something might work out a little bit better, but still, that's not enough development. And that's because this stone here is too far away. So if we take... Let's assume this was played over here now. So this is going to make much more of a difference if you play a little bit closer. If the same sequence is going to happen, now there's not a lot that white can do. So this stone is going to make a little bit of a difference. So there's... If you're intending to attack, you can't play too far away. And in a situation like this, there's some choices that have to be made. Give up 2 stones, run with 2 stones, which is just going to be a ladder, and of course this possibility in here. And black being connected would be this way. I feel is going to be that much better. But yeah, the small knight's jump here, as opposed to this 3-space jump is going to make that much of a difference. So you're preparing to attack. If you're going to pincer, you have to keep your strength, so keep your strength close by. Be it on the 4th line or the 3rd line, I'm not concerned either way. But you can do the 4th line, it plays well with this. Sometimes this works as well. You can go this far. But again, build your strength first. So yeah, that's a lot of analysis just for one corner. But that's how important it is to know how close you should be. If you're just developing, you take your 3 spaces. But once you're under attack, you can no longer take 3 spaces. And here is definitely someone being under attack. So this, no longer possible. Problems are going to ensue. And they did. So because of that, not only was White alive, we established that White was going to live no matter what from here. Black does get some development, but this is huge for White. This does quite a bit, not just life. It's a very strong connected group. It is separating these two groups. Sorry, it's separating these two black groups here. And this white stone is separating these two, and it's not going to take much for White to start developing. So yeah, so Black knows that this stone's going to be an issue. But take this first, see what happens. You could force the life. So many possibilities here. Just because of this. Keep it separated, and then this only has one eye, so later on, maybe this could be cut off. Probably not, has a good launching point here. But you could play towards something like that. With moves like this, it is often better to take them sooner than later, because you do want the possibility.
Live music session recorded at the studios of KVU Community Radio in Portland.
Uh-huh. Let's see. So far, we've avoided any large sacrifices. If you're going to attack a Lonely Stone, this is where the ice space is, but you could come out on top as well. This might be better. So this will prevent... Whoops. I just can't point and click today. So this is going to prevent White from jumping towards the center, and White's going to have to scrounge for life on the bottom. It's not an easy life to have, but as White tries to live through this, then this could become more of a point of contention to take for the time being. Actually, White would have to do this. But it doesn't matter what happens. However, White's going to try and make life here. There's still a lot that's going to be a problem. So maybe it'll die, maybe it won't. There's a lot of undecided there, but it is going to be very difficult to live. But when you come out underneath, as soon as White jumps out, White's pretty safe. White can run this direction, White could run diagonally this way. It's going to be a little difficult to attack this now because you did come in underneath. Not bad if you're just going to take the territory and go, but you're going to have to sacrifice quite a bit for that. And already with the sacrifice here, giving up this as well is going to be a little bit counterproductive for what we were going for, and now White has a lot more influence. One of the biggest issues we're going to look at here now is this becomes bigger and bigger as the attacks happen. And it makes it increasingly difficult to invade as the game progresses. Because now White has wall here, good extension here, nice wall here. That was an interesting sequence. to do in such a situation. So you play on top so that white can't escape, but then white still has a lot of Aji on the inside. Yeah, cut when you can cut. That should be played sooner, but it wouldn't work. What an interestingly exciting little bit of a corner here. What do we have for ideas on this one? I don't have the option of referencing an AI anymore. I was a subscriber to OGS, and now I no longer am, so I don't get to see all the juicy bits. I think this could potentially work out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. It's gonna be a heck of a battle. And there's a lot of forcing in here. Well then, I should only review for people who subscribe. That might make it a bit easier. No, but that's good. This will help us develop our reading skills. So this little bit of this little bit of a situation here. There's still a lot of potential in here. I wouldn't count these out as completely knocked out yet. We can come back and have fun in the event that there's going to be a co later on. For those who just tuned in, I saw a couple of people just join. This was a review. This is 217 Qs. So those new to the channel, I review for 10K and below, and we try and see what we can do about getting everybody into the SDK region. Anybody else who I've reviewed for that was not on the stream, I do have some reviews in my profile. I do review for some SDKs as well, especially lately. I did do the AGA tournament that happened, and had a couple of very fun reviews there. Okay. When Hanes go bad. This is quite a bit to give up, especially for a corner. Traditionally, when something like this happens, just extend, because this cut must be defended immediately. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is going to have to happen. This isn't completely gone yet. This is a nice fancy Tsuji because now black can come in underneath. So now we have a lot more ice space in here. And this group is now able to be chased. So there's a lot of possibility in here. This does look quite comfortably alive for the time being. It's not going to be that easy for white to just start poking around in here and go for the kill immediately, if there's a kill, because this isn't alive yet. And this would be a very terrible semi-ida to ignore. Like, as soon as black gets this, that's it. This would have fewer liberties. So I would take this as alive. Let white give chase and hope for the best here. If white's going to take the connection, but what you want to do is you want to start negating all the white influence. And this is the only reason that I would look at a wall like this, is because this influence that white had before was very intimidating. And we don't want intimidating influence on the board if we can help it. But back to here, yeah. So this Hane here is not a good option to have. If you're gonna go in, just go all in like this. Take the cut right away, and this is just throwing in and hoping for the best, because white gets to choose, you know, what to save here. And the choice here should always be the same. Just take the corner. This is pretty big to have. A couple ways to take the corner here, but I would take it this way first, because this is going to get you your first stable eye, and then you could run further from here. This would not be a happy cut for black to have, because there's not enough living here for it to be viable. So if you're going to go in, don't come in underneath, just take the cross cut, but if it comes down to it. There is a supporting stone here. Avoid the crosscut, force your opponent, and then now you could threaten to come in underneath. White comes out this way, black comes in this way, and very happily connected. This would have been better for white. This would be a great way to go. Yes, black's connected, but now white's developed that much more influence. What other kind of jolly stuff happens here? So the thing is, after all this, capturing the one stone causes an entire corner to go. So that's not... wasn't a good trade here. It does prevent a lot of the other influence development for white. And this is a corner that did have to be settled. And then white sacrifices quite a bit here. A lot of influence to give up. So this is good. I like these moves like this. You keep poking through. And when you keep poking through, if there's a Ko on the board, you know, things like this are... They are going to be good threats to have later on. They are forcing moves as well. That's still minus a point. This wasn't necessary for white. This all being alive, it would have been better to come out this way. Start protecting all of this. So overall, I think white still has the better position. But still, when you do have a lot of development like this, know when you're alive. If you keep defending living groups, there would be no difference between playing a living move like this when it's already alive and doing something like this. It's not threatening anything. It's not defending anything. It's not making your life any better. So, yeah, you may have saved 4 or 5 points in the corner here. But try and... one of the best things to think about is development. And I know it's... I think in this situation, it is quite obvious that this group here should live. We do have a pretty good looking eye over here. What's going on down here is probably going to develop into eyes. It's not going to be...
You've been listening to a live music session recorded at the KBOO Community Radio
What the heck did I
Studios.
do for music here? It doesn't matter what's going to happen for the opponent. It doesn't matter which side that gets played in here. This isn't going to be able to be destroyed. So there are still going to be 2 stable eyes throughout this entire bottom group here. So develop when you can develop and know when you're alive. Let's see, so black capitalizes on this, destroys a little bit of the influence, and now white gets a much smaller move, not much of a... But it is going to be required, sort of. This peep separating 2 stones now would be a lot of destruction for that territory. But this is wrong. Okay, so from here, the last thing that you want to do now, you have a little bit of development, you're well established over here. The last thing you should look at is this large bit over here. This isn't completely connected, but we're not going to worry about that for now, because maybe we could fix that through an invasion. And we can invade quite comfortably now. So there's not a lot that white can do here to save everything. So through an invasion, you kind of draw a line between 2 stones. And this is kind of where you want to be for invading. So that's a terrible line, but you see the kind of line there. Maybe I could draw a better one. If only we had a good line tool. But yeah, so anything that's too far below this line is too deep. Anything above is probably too shallow. But if you play right smack dab in the middle, you're usually pretty good for an invasion. So we have some possibilities. So in previous games, we see white would do something like this. This would be a mistake because then black could expand right away, get at that little bit of a base, start building eye shape. So you can't start building these walls yet. You can't attack this from a distance because there's nothing really here that can be attacked now. There's no reason for black to respond to these moves other than just make life. So the first thing you'd have to do now is decide, what do you want to do against this stone? This wouldn't be too bad. Oh yeah. So that's the good part about, first off, having such a wide area here, is that there is plenty of room. You could do a little bit of shenanigans like this, just have some fun with the attacking bit of things. Just create some problems. And the problems that you want to create such shapes that you can expand from. So when you have two stones like this, you could expand that way, you could expand like this. A 2-space jump from a 2-stone base looks pretty good. Three-space jump from 3 stones is pretty good as well. Usually works to your advantage. And you develop in a couple of directions here. With something like this, you start correcting some of the possibilities that can happen in here. Because, you know, white's going to want to come in and start up some problems like this, and you want to make sure that if you can ladder something, you want to ladder into whatever your stone's going to be. But, you know, that's what I said before, that maybe we can fix what can go on in here by developing up on the left-hand side. But this stone here, this is what's going to give you all the power now. This is going to change the game completely. One of these days I gotta get a comfier chair to sit in all day. Alright, so now we've developed, we've caused some trouble, and we're going to examine the possibilities. White comes in underneath. White's connected here, so white doesn't need to worry about making life. What white needs to worry about is destroying all of black's probabilities here. And black's the one that needs to have life. So, if it was just something like this, this would be a bit more on the ideal side. The reason this would be ideal... There we go. The reason this would be ideal for white is because if black just has a string of stones, then black got nothing out of it. What did we do before? Okay, so 3 space, 3 space. Okay, so something like this. This is... I would call this more of the desirable response. As far as an invasion goes. This stone is going to have a lot of Aji. White's going to want to separate it, but it's still going to have a lot of potential. What I would be going for now is you create a lot of weakness in this group with the sequence that just gets played out now. And this might be enough. This might be enough to completely change everything over, because the sequence that would have worked to white's benefit before now has a lot of black support here, and with a lot of black support, we're going to be running into well, not the kind of race that you want to have to worry about. So this creates a lot of problems. So white has cutting points. Black doesn't have as many. Like, this is pretty solid here. And there's a lot that has to worry about. So that gets fixed up. Black comes in this way. This corner isn't completely alive. The 2-2 spot is going to allow for a fun escape here. So if you come back to try and fix this, it's going to get cut. Something like this happens. Black's going to play to try and save this stone and then jump in. Essentially what we want to do is avoid this escaping completely. And yeah, maybe it could happen, maybe it couldn't. But I would say causing a nice dirty battle is going to be a lot better than seeing a development like this. So for here, white developed quite a bit, and actually almost maximizes everything in there. The only thing that would have made it a bit better is extending this way. Then everything else is just kind of nickel and diming, trying to make a few points here and there. And I guess after that, yeah, it is going to be quite difficult to invade. have to come in this way. Or get used to the Hanes here. So the Hane on the side didn't work. There's not enough liberties here to make it viable, but when you're playing towards the side here, this is going to work a lot better for black now. Create some very happy shape. And it's not the reduction we wanted, but it's the reduction we deserve. But overall, I gotta say it was a pretty good game. The games are won and lost within the first 20 to 30 moves. I did mention that in the previous game. If you go back and get some games reviewed, just see how many problems you have within the first 30 or so moves, and how much different a game could be if some of that stuff was corrected later on. Where are we? 10, 20, 30 moves. Okay, so we're about move 36 here. So yeah, so one of the first big problems we see in a game like this, right here, was at move 20. Fix that a little bit, and everything else doesn't happen. Bit better for black, bit worse for white. So just simple moves like this. Same with this one over here. Within the first few moves, that one space is going to make that much of a difference to how the game could play later on. And yeah, there is an argument for if this white stone wasn't here but over there, then it's even easier to invade this. But you're not defending all of this. You're taking the corner, and then you're going to develop the side. You're not taking the side and hoping to save the corner. But for these two, very fun game. It does look like it was quite the everything anyways. But yeah, white turned out just a little bit bigger on this one, just for the get a bit better at invading and stretching out. But yeah, it looks like this was a lot of fun. I see good things in the future for these people. Alright, what do we have next? Alright, I'm gonna do one more, and then Jill's probably gonna have, what, 3, 4, 5, 6 games? What do you have today, Jill? This is definitely an interesting one. This is going to be a tough one to grade. This person is now SDK, but was technically DDK when this game was played. So this game, the person was 10Q at the time. Or were they 10Q after the game? But either way. So black gets 2 stones here. This is, I don't know if anyone's ever had a chance to play Loses a Lot 7K. But whoever that person is, absolutely splendid player. They come up with a lot of great possibilities on the board. They have some great insight. Let's see. Okay. Anybody here who's read EGF starts in 45 minutes. Okay. I'll do your game first, and then I'm going to come back to do Loses a Lot. So what do you have for your first game? Well, that's okay. Loses a Lot isn't on the stream right now, and he could just rewatch anytime he wants to. It's I'm okay either way. I have nothing else going on with my what day is it today? Saturday? Yeah, I got nothing else going on a Saturday. But yeah, so anybody who's read the second book of Go, I gotta say, has really kind of changed my life when it came to playing on handicap games and typical rule sets. The second book of Go does add a lot to the to potential, and it does teach you things that with some fair explanations. And typically, with a handicap game, you don't do something like this right off the hop. It's not it's not advisable anyways because with the extra stone, there's a lot that happens when it comes to invading. Well, you know what? I'm gonna jump into review this game mode. There we go. And of course, it doesn't matter which corner you take. The very first thing you should do is always take the other corner. So when you do this, this only has one advantage, and that just means that it's going to be not necessarily impossible, but it's going to be very difficult for black to come and play anything against it. And no matter what's played against it, at least white's going to get to decide and probably get Sentai out of this. So it's a lot of this is about what's not going to happen. So defending a corner, not a problem. It's not usually advisable in a handicap game, but right away the first thing that happens, and this is I can't say anything bad about it yet, but the how do we call this here? When you have extra stones on the board, you get a lot of chances to be brave, and this makes still a little bit too far of a spread. If you're going to counter a Shamari with a Shamari, take this one, because this one has fewer possibilities against it. But either way, this corner is now defended. We're going to develop something somewhere else on the board to try and come back on this one. As per the second book of Go, this is the preferred development. Even if there was another stone here in a handicap game, this is still the preferred development. And this here might be just a little bit too much. Wow, that is a terrible move. So yeah, this is actually very good. Black puts on the pressure here. The best thing that you have on the board is the ability to apply all the pressure. When you have extra stones on the board in a handicap game, what they're teaching you how to do essentially is attack. In an even game, you have to make life first and then learn how to attack. In a handicap game, you essentially have life because you have all the extra stones on the board. So all you got to do is keep the pressure on your opponent. Because white started off behind, white should and shouldn't grab a corner. Grab a corner because it's easy. But now with a lot of the new variations that come out thanks to the AI, it's not as easy to create cutting points as it used to. This is essentially all we rely on as stronger players. When we're able to give handicap stones, it's because we know we're going to be able to force the opponent into something pretty terrible. This would be the closest, but then we have issues in here. But this could have been viable. This is something that maybe white could have done, because this corner isn't dead yet. Yeah, there's issues here, and it's probably going to live. Yeah, it looks alive-ish. So this would have been the best outcome in this one. Create the cutting points when you can create the cutting point, and that cutting point is what's going to help you live. The only problem with this on white's behalf is that this stone, just like in the previous game, it's very difficult to attack something if you have no place to run to, if you have nothing to support you. This does have some support, but maybe it would be better to develop it a little later on. So white's alive. Oh man, don't take away your Agi like that. Okay. So white extends. So now this would be different. So if white does ignore, if black does ignore, doesn't. But just as a possibility, this could make just that little bit more of a difference. Because now black is separated into two groups again, and black has to try that much more, that much harder to live. But And you never play endgame moves this early into the game. Never, 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 never. I think this was covered in a game last week. Or someone else's anyways. So the fun that you can have with this, when you're on the first line, there's a lot of things you can play that just cannot be disconnected. And because of that, this might have been better. White tried to develop something, and all you do is you get to come in and tear it all apart, and you get to do it safely. You get to do it safely because there's really no way to disconnect these moves. White can't come in. If White comes in too deep, just going to get cut off, and now we're in even worse shape. So, if you play out on the first line too early in the game, it does create a lot of problems. This may have been a little bit low, but it still serves the same purpose. It doesn't matter what White does against it. It's going to live and it's going to serve its purpose. It's not here to, capture the board. It's not here to kill anything. It is here to just destroy all the potential that White had. And with a handicap game, that is also a good goal to have. A fair way to approach something is, if I can't have it, you can't have it either. Anybody out there who has brothers and sisters, mutually assured destruction is sometimes the way to go. So this is very well placed. White has really no choice to ignore. Coming into this corner might be a little bit much. The other possibility would be to come in here, but that might not be possible now because we don't want to get that developed too early. So you approach on the open side. This might be what Black was hoping for. I do have a newfound dislike for the kick here. The kick does offer a certain amount of problem. What do we do here? Yeah. It is customary to extend from that. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that today because Black would get too much territory over here. So now, in a handicap game, White is prone to spreading themselves way too thin. And I gotta say, this may have been the mistake. If that's going to be the case, just come in like this. There's no harm in that. There's just some interesting stuff that can happen because of this. You can create a lot of fun. Maybe, just maybe, do this first. Yeah, see? Jill knows everything. So why is this good? There's reasons for everything, so if someone can tell me why this is a good move. Or why this is the best move anyways. And it better not be because that's what the AI said. Okay. It is a cut. It's separating these stones. But the thing is, if you look at the options here, there's 2 stones to attack. And what do we want to do? We'll call it stone 1 and stone 2. How's that for cleverness? So with 2 stones to attack, there's a couple possibilities here. You can split them directly. You can attack directly, or you can come in underneath. Because one thing we want to do is we want to attack. But if you think about it, well, try A. What does this do? This cuts the stones apart, and that's it. This is a nice separating move. That's all it does. This doesn't separate, but it attacks. And that's not too bad. Attacking a stone is something that we want to do. But this one here does 2 things. It attacks a stone, and it separates 2 stones. So if you could break down the game into its constituent parts, there's very few things that you really ever have to do on a board. Attack, defend, expand. And then that's the primary reason for Go, is to You know, attack, defend, expand. That's it. That's all there is on the board. A derivative of attack is to separate two stones, is to cut. So this here is essentially doing that. You're expanding a little bit. You're attacking here. You're cutting. You're doing a lot of things at once with a single stone. So when you're looking at the possibilities of what to do next, we've now established we have two stones to attack. Well, let's do it the most efficient way. Let's do the one that has the most possibilities here. And the fun with this, due to the where it is on the board, you can make the extra move, but unlike in previous games where you always have to expand 4, you don't have to extend 4 on this one, because white can't just jump in there. So now you can come back and start influencing this stone. So I think this would have been much better for black. This actually does have significantly more development opportunities and has completely destroyed all the potential for white here. And maybe, just maybe, there could be a shenanigan here for white, but really a lot of the Aji's gone now. So this here, there are some things that are moves, but I wouldn't really consider. They do have their own set of problems here. A lot of things that you just wouldn't or shouldn't play. This doesn't do much. White comes out, and there's something that's too small. This here was played, so we're not going to cover that yet. This here creates some issues that's going to force you to come back, and then, you know, white's going to play towards each other and try and create a wall. If black comes out, then white's going to jump in, and it's probably going to get something good here. I'm not going to play out the complete variations, because these are the things that you wouldn't want to do in a game. So I don't want to consider it, because I don't want you to play into a game and think that it was a good move. We do avoid certain things like this. Yeah, it does look like it's kind of bad for white, but it isn't, because now you've given white a lot of development. And these are the things that we want to avoid. This is why, you know, one may be better than the other. And you can't just look at something and go, yeah, I'm going to play this move and everything is going to die, and it's not going to. Well, we would hope not. If it does, there's other reasons for that, but it shouldn't all just die. So this move here does create a wedge. And it is nice when a wedge is created, but white gets to create a wedge as well. If white can't play back towards this stone, then white's going to do something strong to now potentially attack this stone. And now black won't be able to play towards it. Black would then be forced to play out or play up. So black played up, which is good. This is the right way. You want to add development to those. And then white can just jump out, and white jump down for some reason. I would say this, because now it's going to play towards this. And this is still not a possibility for black. So that would have been wasted just jumping here. I don't think this could have been attacked properly. It would have been best to come out this way. Okay, so from the previous examples that we saw, if black had played here at A, there's a lot of extra development that happens, and there's a lot less to worry about. Because you start developing, you start getting... And this is still possible now. But what you have to worry about is black had to play a lot of extra moves to worry about life. So this is the wrong side, come back one. That's too close. So if you see the difference here now, if the other methodology was played, not only is white not in an attacking situation, but black had to play all these extra moves just to live in the corner. You've given your opponent too much control over the board just by making the wrong sequence of moves. And when white plays something like 018, the first thing you should do is punish it. Learn how to punish your opponent for their bad play. So this is the mistake. Come out over here. And now you have the advantage. Like this would be a lot for white to deal with right now, because this is secure. White can try coming in for the corner, but it's probably not going to be successful. Yeah, maybe life can still happen, but just if, and I always say force your opponent to live, don't kill. If you force your opponent to live, this extra development for black. So whether or not that's given up, however the life happens here, not important. So we say black got Sente out of this. This is a good thing to have. This would be a great way to settle the score. With the extra influence over here, now black can come in here. Now black's on the offensive. You know, the more you get to punish your opponent, the more you get to control the board in various ways. Sequences can often lead into Sente sequences, and you want Sente sequences like this. Also, once you're done attacking once, you can attack again. If this works in your favor, then these two groups get separated. And the divide and conquer method will keep propagating through the board, and if all goes as planned, one of your opponent's groups is going to collapse, because hopefully you won't have more groups than your opponent. But yeah, if you're going to invest all the stones like that and still have to come back and defend, you've made the wrong choice. I don't know if this game had analysis on. Yeah, some tournament games that you have do have the ability for analysis. And this would be the difference between checking something out because it's probably a good move. Because if the opponent does this, what do you have to worry about? You're alive. White spends all these extra moves living, and black gets the advantage here. Because this expansion was worth that much more. Okay. So white extended here, which is fine. This is exactly what white wanted. Black extends in kind, which is great. And then white jumps in underneath. So you can't defend everything on the board. It's just not going to happen. And I think this was the better way to do it. But if white's going to insist on that, then black should have insisted on this. This would have been better. This actually plays with a stone that much better. So white gets small life over here. We'll count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5-point group. Because this point is not decided yet. Whoever gets this, whoops. Still can't click today. Whoever gets this one gets the corner. So that's the difference between like a 5 and a 7-point group for white here. But we're not going to quibble over those points because those points aren't what matters here. So it doesn't matter what white does. We know this stone can't be separated from this group. Whatever black does now is just going to be controlling the board. With a divide and conquer method like this, with the way black is set up, it shouldn't be possible for this string of stones to get killed. And these cutting stones, separating a group for attack as opposed to just coming in and destroying, they both have their advantages and disadvantages. The advantage here is white has to spend a lot of moves just getting away or trying to live. And coming underneath, let's see, what does black do here? Black plays it underneath, and essentially all white does is just work to stay connected. So white gets to keep influence, and this is still settled. White doesn't have to play a lot of moves against it, and there's no risk here. So, especially when you're playing against a stronger player, you have the stones, you might have to spend a little bit more on risk, like white does. So white jumps in the middle and keeps separating everything. Because white has to hope that something will eventually collapse and is probably thinking that this is going to be a good cut later on. So with the divide and conquer method here, white jumped in the middle, and now black is stuck in a tough spot. That could have been good for one more. All right. So there's a lot of good things that happen in here. This always comes into, is there something that you could ignore? Chances are probably. It depends on what your aim is now. Like, you always have to have an aim. You have to have goals in this game. There's got to be some reason that moves are made. And I guess with something like this, loses a lot is a very good player. But if you look at some of what's going on, these stones aren't aiming at anything. And if they are aiming at something, the closest it's going to get is jumping right in here. That's the closest you're going to get for aiming at something here. But it's still not quite close enough to do that. You can't just jump in, unfortunately, because then it's just going to be separated again. This doesn't have enough for two eyes yet, and this isn't going to have enough for two eyes. White is just trying to do anything whatsoever. So if you are going to threaten, this might be the closest. So we'll say that gets ignored. So now we have possibilities, things to play towards. Like these stones now have a little bit of extra Aji. But probably not going to be a good one, so let's just play it this way. Alright, so we'll say this one happened. This isn't that good for black yet, anyways. For white. So black can just come down, and we're going to be, forcing the one eye issue here. So the last thing that you want to do as an opponent, yeah, you can get the one eye, but you want to jump out first. But the difference with something like this and what we had before is black has an eye here, black has an eye here, black reduced this. It's about having an aim, having a goal for what you want to do. If this didn't happen this way, then this would be a great time for black to pull back and say coming up here. So now it might look like black's trying to knock out this stone, which is doable. So this is that kind of thing that, white's going to look at. It's like, okay, well, I'm fine here. This might be okay, so I'll try defending, as a possibility. But what's really going on is if white wants to come back and defend this, and not that that's a good defense to have, but if white's going to come back and defend this, this is just becoming that much weaker. It's trying to run is going to be difficult, and the more white tries to run, the more black's going to develop. So this would be the difference between just having a stone, and that's just having a stone, and a stone that's going to have a purpose. So we need to have purpose. This still has purpose. It didn't reduce as much as we wanted to, and we still have the same goal in mind. We're not going to play directly on the grip, because the harder you hit the group, the more it's going to run and the more chances it's going to have to live. So just hit it up from a distance. And as you hit it from a distance, we don't know if it's going to live. But now we have options over here. What do you want to do against this group now? Black comes out. Now we're able to peep a bit better here. Black still has one eye, can come in here for the other eye. And that will be played later. We do want this played later because we do want the eye over here because we want to reduce the chances that white could live. Not the best sequence of moves, but it's the idea of the move. It's the idea of actually having a game plan within the game itself. Yeah, do we have reasons for everything here? we have good bamboos. Eh, not bad. Well, I'd say overall it was a fair game. A lot of fun things happened. But for the most part, one thing, and it's going to be difficult to teach, but everything must have a reason right from the beginning. This has a reason, this has a little less reason because it's a little too far. If you're playing just to play, that's why some things are getting torn apart. If you spend just a little bit of extra time reading and understanding why... Let's see. Uh-oh. So if we have a look at it like this, for the difference between A, B, C, D, E, there's a lot of other options here. Like, you really can draw as many of these as you want. They all have their own purpose. If you have a handicap game, this really is the move. But that's only because you want to turn the 2-stone game, you've turned it into a 3-stone game, now it's a 4-stone game. Your opponent comes in here, you now have 5 stones. It's pretty big here. Actually, I would play it over here. So when you have a method like this, if you know how to use handicap stones to your advantage, and your opponent's gonna play a Shamari like this, well, yeah, and it's, you can play an opponent who does this, and it's almost like playing against a handicap every friggin' time. I used to play a lot of handicap games back in my younger years. Yeah, see, it's very difficult to play against. But unless you know how to play against it, then it's not so tough. So that would be one of those things. So this move here would be, of course, terrible, because all white did was try and grab the extra stone. Yeah, you do. But it becomes divide and conquer. So if you played it something like this actually makes a big difference, because now white's actually established everywhere, and the corners are going to fall. But it would turn into a nice divide and conquer game. The other divide and conquer portion of it is, this would be acceptable. Black comes in here, and white comes out on top. And this is a good beginning form. But yeah, but handicap games, that's a little bit different of a deal to get into. But yeah, like this here, this has a purpose. This has a purpose, but if you don't understand the purpose, like this, white didn't do this to spread thin. So if black does it to spread thin, then this is a mistake. Now, if you're doing this because you think white's gonna do this, and you want the extension here, and you want the extension here, and you want good things to happen, then for sure. If that's what you were aiming for. But this is the thing. So if you come down to any game whatsoever. So if you recommend a game to me tomorrow, and I ask you, why did you play this move right here? And you say, well, it just seemed good at the time. That's not an answer. Let's plan to attack. Let's plan like this. This is good. I know why I would play there. I would play here because it separates those 2 stones. And I still have room to cause a lot of trouble here. I know I can make ice space. I know I can cause a lot of trouble and cause a lot of grief for this. Well, yes. Actually, the Q14 move was, I think that's what it was a very good option. Was that it? Yeah. So here, like this is the correct move. This is the correct move because we have reasons for it and we can tell you why it was good. So with this, if this was the move you made, Could you tell me why you would make a move like this? What does this move say to you? You see, and now that's the wrong thing, to hope. You don't want to hope here. This isn't the game of play and pray. You know, it's not like the good old days of when plug and pray came out, and you would hope that when you plug it in, it would work for you. You know, if you're just going to throw a stone down and hope you don't die... Well, no, it's not. I'm not saying that you would have played that. But I'm saying, you know, had it been played, you know, that's that kind of question you have to ask yourself. It's like, now, why did you do that? Like, what's the meaning of this stone? This stone here, over at B8, I know the meaning of that stone. And the opponent knew the meaning of that stone. This is a very good extension. If they had studied it just a bit farther, they would see that C8 would have been a better move. Not that this is a bad move. You know, maybe this is the better move, but I prefer C8 because it's higher up and it has a better chance of coming in and disconnecting the stone. Then it may have actually elicited a response right away as well. So if you can play a move that gets Sente, so I would say B8 was a Gote move. Maybe C8 is better because it's a Sente move. All the questions, like create a checklist. Are you an aggressive player? So the first question you have to ask yourself is, does my move attack? Yes, this move here attacks. P16 attacks. So now the opponent has to defend. Was P16 a Sente move? Well, yes, it was a Sente move. Was it a cutting move? Nope. Now an extra move has to be made for this to be a proper cutting move. So let's go back to the checklist. Is this a good move? Does it attack? Are you an aggressive person? It does attack, so let's play it. Is it a Sente move? Hey, you're damn straight that's a Sente move. The opponent has to respond. And then we have to play again. Is this an attack? This is definitely an attack. Because if the opponent doesn't respond to it, there's problems that are going to arise here. And we wouldn't want to be that aggressive. We just want to be this aggressive. This is the right amount of aggressive. Because the issue we have here is chances are that's not going to be able to live. If we know it's not going to live, well, yeah, sometimes it's just fun to let them crawl. I play a lot of games where I let them crawl like this. I am more than happy to let this happen. I like having big walls like this. But, big walls aside, so now we can say that if we play again, over here, does this attack? Well, now we've played it out, we've done some thinking about it. Yes, this does attack. Is it a Sente move? If your opponent doesn't respond and they die, that's their own fault. But since they should respond, yes, that's a Sente move. So these are good moves to have. So P16, I gotta say, by creating a useless wedge like this, is a very good move to have, if you followed it up properly. Now, unfortunately, you may have to ask yourself too many times, not necessarily right from the beginning move, but this is actually a good thing to have. Maybe you need a different first question. Maybe the first question is, do I need to respond to that? So from here, do I need to respond to this? Yeah, maybe black should have just played this. Yes, I do need to respond, but I want to respond in such a way that I'm not going to have to worry about much. And this actually would have played a lot better. If white comes out, white's left with some interesting shape, but the issue we have here is this is a very, very strong wall. We wouldn't want to do that. So we ask ourselves, do I have to respond to that? That's a good one as well. Will you die? And this is where life and death comes in important. That's right. And if you don't need to. So I was watching that game last night before I played you, the game you played. You had a group in the corner here, and you had a Hane. That Hane, as far as I'm concerned, didn't need to be played, because I feel you were alive in the corner. So it's one of those things that maybe you don't need to respond to this, but maybe you do. If I don't need to respond to this, but I do respond, can I get Sente? And I gotta say, taking Sente is usually the better move. Does this give me Sente? I gotta say so. And then come in and then come in and play against a stone like this. Does this attack? Looks like it attacks. So we have a lot of fun things that happen here. And now it's going to be every move. Does my opponent, do I have to respond to it? Does my opponent have to respond to it? And if at any time you feel just even the slightest little bit that your opponent doesn't have to respond to it, don't play it. Just don't play it. And we still have options here. Like this here, like it's just knowing a move like C8. When you know a move like C8, Black B4 could be ignored. Yes, it could. But it's not usually ignored because when you go after a corner like that, you don't. You want to have something alive for your divide and conquer history. Yeah, maybe there was a bigger move, but just but the thing is, and this is another thing about a handicap game. It's you don't want to have to worry about coming back and defending a group, because when everything else gets developed and you start getting chased and don't get a chance to come back and fix it, and then it dies because you're getting chased, that's even worse. So spending the extra move now might be something good. Just might be. But then, who would have thought something like this could have happened? But these are just things to look at. You know, it's you can play. Now we're not going to talk about that move that much more. But anyways. But then you just ask yourself, does this attack, does your opponent have to respond? You know, do I have to respond to it? Is the sequence going to end in my favor or my opponent's favor? Is it too deep? Is it not deep enough? Maybe this one's better. Does my opponent have to respond to it? Do I have to respond to it? Is it going to be Sentai or Gote? You know, how many moves in a row can I get with this? If my opponent responds here, like this is probably what you would prefer. But they're always good questions to have. And this is my teacher, he was teaching me back in 2006-ish. And he proposed one big question to me, and the big question was, with what intent? And it's not just a game of Go, this applies to everything in life. If you're going to do anything in life ever, not just on the Go board, you have to ask, you know, with what intent? If someone does something, ask the same question. Well, why would they do that? And sometimes the answer is because they had nothing else to play and they thought it was a good move. Why would Black play this move? It kind of separates these two. Alright, so who else do we have here? Anybody have any games they want reviewed? I know, Jill, you're going to be jumping into the EGF stream. Alright, B plus R. Looks like the game was good up till about the first 40 moves. When you say influence games, is that because you are both going for influence? Was there, you actually had a plan going into it? Oh, that's tough. Trying to think of what your opponent has planned. Oh, that's a mistake. That's a mistake. Hmm. Do I have to respond to that? Maybe one does have to respond to this. Maybe not. We'll say this move happened, and then this move happened. First of all, that looks like Gote to me. Although something to not worry about in the future, because that would have led to a little bit of a peep over there. But I'd be okay with it. Well, I can tell both of you have been studying. This is a good one to have. I would say they did cut on the wrong side. As black, I would have cut over here. Because this is going to get cramped anyways. So force black towards your strength. Sorry, force white towards your strength. And even if this is something that you want to ignore, it's ignoring in the right direction this way. Just as a possibility here. But this actually worked in your favor. This is the better development plan for white. See, black abandoned the kick here. It's I actually like this better. If the kick isn't played all the way through, it does leave the 3-3 open. And the 3-3 isn't open the same way here. And it's going to lead to some issues over here for white later. Like, this is a very strong connection to have. I do prefer this one. I like that one. Oh, that's the wrong direction. Good play, good play. Oh, one shouldn't have to scrounge on the second line like that. Already developed. Come up one. If white defends, black builds a box. Always build a box. We like building boxes. We all live in boxes. We just don't look at them as boxes. So create boxes. Create some nice walls like that. Yeah, that's a little low. Well, I gotta say as white, so this is pleasantly aggressive, but it's not pleasantly aggressive the way we would want it to be aggressive. Advantage. You have successfully split these two groups. Disadvantage. Splitting the groups did nothing because they're both alive anyways. This portion in the middle I don't think we could do anything about, so now this very strongly influential game, you'd have to play this influence towards... towards trying to make a fair reduction. I think this would have been better. Black is still going to have to make some moves against it, but you have places to run to that are a bit better. Black has a lot of fixing to do in there. Not that you want to be running, but at least the running is going to help destroy some of the influence here. Unfortunately, it's also going to help develop new influence, especially one that's going to work against that. Oh man, this is a very tough situation. What else do we have against this? Maybe, just maybe. And this is counterintuitive to how most people think. Just something like this. So, the reason we have something like this. Black's going to want to... this does two things for black. One, helps defend the corner just enough. However, if you have just enough foreknowledge to do some shenanigans in here, then black also has the option of coming out over here and connecting underneath. So this move has two purposes. The divide and conquer technique over here, you're not saving this stone, you're playing towards the stone, and that's where the Aji is. As you play towards a stone that has Aji, you have the advantage of developing your own territory, your own influence. So you could have kind of gone this route just by sacrificing. Assuming it would have played out like this. But since your opponent had already played this move, then yes, playing over at R14 might have been the best bet here. Because it's going to keep these separated, so you'd actually still have the divide and conquer mentality. And like I said, so a move like this would be great just to sacrifice, because this is already on the second line. Maybe you can play back towards this and it'll be something in your favor. Just maybe. No, something else could have happened. But I would like R14 better than this, because this doesn't divide and or conquer. Okay, so now we get a dirty fight, and this isn't good, because you're incredibly heavy and very dumpling-esque, and we don't want to be a dumpling shape. Dumpling shapes quite frequently will work to your disadvantage, so no dumplings. And this here, of course, just huge for a problem. Yeah, that was correct. So you develop a lot of influence, but you don't fix the cut. Yes, it did. It did. But then you'd have to figure something else out with it. And that's the problem, though. And I don't even like this one. This is actually... ladder doesn't work in your favor. So the problem is, I don't even think you could do that one. I think you'd have to come back and do this one. Sacrifice the peep, which is fine. But I gotta say, a lot of this did collapse. The AI liked L12? Wow. I'm happy that... Well, I'm happy the computer liked it, but it's just a matter of... Can a human do something viable with this? I know that's standard form and such, but... There's going to be so many possibilities with this. I can't read out 256 by 256 type possibilities in a AI matrix like that. That's just... Really, who does that? What if we just did this? Old school. Nice and solid. No peeping, no nothing. Block at L11. And I don't know how to block at L11. L, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What are we blocking here? Only 800 playouts on your AI. only. How many playouts did you do before the AI? What did I do? L11. This is terrible. Black LA11. I don't know. Either way, I don't like that choice. One of these days when I learn how to read. If I knew how to read, I wouldn't be back to, yeah, I wouldn't be back to 7Q again. I am just doing horrible. I actually lost to a 6Q yesterday. Like, that hasn't happened to me in a while. At least a week. Now it can be netted. Boy. So. But anyways. M14. Yes. So anyways. So to avoid all of this, I like going back to the other possibility of something exciting like this. Go back to the divide and conquer. Find something to attack and attack it. That's my preferred way to go. If you could attack something, do it. That would have saved a lot of trouble later on. And this is the problem. Once things start collapsing, they just keep on collapsing. Which sounds like why the game went the direction that it did. And that happened in my game yesterday. Everything was going great, and then I buggered up one move and lost by a half dozen. So this is it. So we don't want... we don't even know what we don't want here. That would have been one of those sacrifices in this direction then. But what I like about it is, with something like this, I've grown more accustomed to actually playing the stronger move like this, and trying to avoid anything that could be peeped or poked or anything else. It is a little bit slower in the mid game, but it's that much stronger near end game, and it is an interesting exchange to have. And likewise, back in this portion over here, just playing something like that, because there's really not much else Black can do against it. Black can play against it, and now that's just a stone. So sometimes, just sometimes, hit that up. And even if Black did come in, because Black can't play much else in that direction anymore, White still has a chance to make something good out of this. So sometimes playing the stronger move is just simply the stronger move for a reason. Because now it removes all possibility other than the fact that it is defended and good to go, good to carry on. If you could attack with it, great. And you could have some possibilities. If Black did play this, it's wrong. It would be, because we don't want White to be able to come in here. Maybe that. You know, now we're leaving possibilities for White to start reducing. And that's one thing that Black would want to avoid. And the other advantage of this, just set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about this kind of stuff anymore. We're alive. We're happily alive-ish. We're alive and influenced. I think the next best portion of this would be to sacrifice using this route. Unless you did that later on. Nope. Okay. This. So I'd be a little less concerned about what's going on up on top right there for just a moment. That can't be played, so that has to be played. That can't be played, so that has to be played. And I think we can go one more, because if black does this, white does that. Yeah, I think that'll work. So if white goes one more, black goes one more, then white comes back. Then white has to do this. Then white could do that. How does that look? Are we acceptable here? I'm not worried about this. You've lost them, but at least try and gain something out of it. That's a fair invasion, and then you can come back. I mean, it could work. It definitely worked! And you could also have some fun with it. So maybe you want to do this first. Peep at the damn thing. Come and do this. So either way, this is going to fall apart. These are going to live. But just maybe we can get something out of it. And I think this would be a little bit more on the happy side for white. Unless this was a blitz game and you only had like 5 seconds to think, and then heck, anybody could have made that same mistake. But yeah, this actually works out because you get a bunch of forcing moves, and then you can come back and hopefully maybe black was feeling greedy and was going to do something like this, and that's fine, just ignore it. And then you get to come in here and have some fun. Too deep? Maybe. So give black this portion, and then you just keep coming through here. Because you know what? Yeah, this does look like you know, a lot-ish, but I wouldn't consider that a lot. Because you can even come back and maybe this. Force black to take something off the board. But a lot of that wouldn't have happened if you attacked over here first. I think attacking over there first would have been... that would have been game deciding. R14 feels game deciding to me. Well, not now, but before. So... but I like where your mind's at. You know, there is a lot of exciting things that happened in this game. And likewise, a couple of weeks ago, when I was reviewing for Odrum or something like that, his game, the same thing happened. Once something dies, everything just kept getting cut and kept on dying. And it would be around this point that I would say might be fair to just give it up. I don't think that white would have been able to come back from this in any way, shape, or form. So, but yeah, that looks like it was a lot of fun. A lot of good things happen. Knowing the whens, whys, and wheres, and hows, and let's practice our dividing and conquering. That should be everybody's homework for the week. Divide and conquer everything on the board, and let me know how that goes for you. Alright, you go enjoy the EGF. Anybody else have something that they want reviewed? Mr. Alex, you might be close enough to qualify for this. Well then, I do hope to see that next week. Yeah, one of these days I was... oh, you don't have to have a specific game. Just throw out a game number and we'll go from there. about that? AI review. The AI has good instincts. Alrighty. Mr. Alex 21K versus Subatomic 18K. Hey, how about that? Variations from a 15K, that's what I like to see. Everybody getting in on this deal. That's the way it should be. If you have more knowledge than someone, that's when it's a good time to review. Alright, let's see where this went. So, just a friendly match. Well, that's the way it should be. This is why I like reviewing for DDK, but everybody should be reviewing for DDK. Especially if someone's going to play a game that has a lot of observers. If you're going to be observing, you may as well go into the variations there and make recommendations. Alright, this is good. Okay, that's a little too far. Just a little bit. Come back one. Atomic will avenge us all. Okay, so this year, this is actually one of those things that when the AI reviews usually says this is a good time to poke. There's a reason it's a good time to poke because this is this goes back to the divide and conquer methodology, and divide and conquer does quite frequently work out. This might be a little too soon to divide and conquer. I like to have some development first, like a hypothetical. Maybe something like this could have happened, and what does white do? White extends, okay, so then you can come back and do something like this. So I like to have things that I could run towards. That's what I like to create. So, and then from here, it's a matter of how well is this going to fare against the wall of black stones. So dividing and conquering is always a possibility that happens because of this 3-space jump. So coming in whoops. There we go. Coming in one short, of course, is going to be able to prevent that, and so it's not something you would ever have to worry about later on in the game. Sometimes you can worry about things like this, but that's minor. That's just a pittance in comparison to everything else, because you'd get better development. But that's probably not going to happen anyways. So yeah, so 2 spaces. 2 spaces is what's safe, especially when you have... Right, and the thing is, because it's close to strength like this, black is in the area, black has already developed something, and black is alive. So because your opponent's alive, you can't be thinking of, expanding territory, because you're just going to get invaded and torn apart. So that is actually quite common. Not saying that happened, but that's what could happen. This is a fair extension, however. This is one thing to learn for both. I don't know if Mr. Subatomic's ever going to see this either. But what I would recommend is, I would call this, you're defending a living safe corner. This doesn't do anything for it, and this only develops a little bit. From this point, as a DDK, you have closed, closed, open, open, but this is the weaker open one. Come in and play something against the open corner. Doesn't matter which side. B is the better side on this one, but it's always better to play and get these resolved as soon as possible. How you resolve it is going to be up to you, but this would be a better solution instead of just playing out here on the Hoshi point. So white defends, that's good. Good instincts. Because you already have development here, with this developed stone over at F3, thanks to this stone over here, you could actually, I don't like the kick, but I like this one better. You can actually squeeze your opponent now. It's this wall here at 1, it does add a lot of extra towards this for support. Your variation I like as well, but if you're going to play this variation, play down 1. If your opponent approaches on the 3rd line, then make sure that you do the pincer attack on the 3rd line as well. And I will show you the difference here, unless your opponent did that. Okay, your opponent played that variation. Okay, so we have this. And this is the wrong sequence, but this is just for example. Typically this would be played. There. So this here is the I space. And the problem is, you defend over here, your opponent gets the play in over there, and vice versa. So these points become Miai, and 7 here is actually bigger, so playing here first is white, but then you give up the corner. So playing just a little bit higher gives your opponent that many more chances to survive. And this is what you would want to avoid. If you're going to squeeze your opponent, like I always emphasize, don't aim to kill, just aim to push. If you get a kill out of it, that's always a bonus. So over here is just a little bit too high. This here is just low enough. This is the stronger pincer. And this way, when your opponent comes in, which is still going to happen, it's still going to be a move here. And yeah, there is a sequence against this corner. I wouldn't worry so much about this corner, because what you're doing here essentially is you're worrying about chasing your opponent. They would have to come out one more, and then you can come and fix the flaw in this one. And likewise, the other possibility was just playing solid here. So just playing solid here, it forces your opponent towards the middle, but as you're forced towards the middle, then you have a strong corner, you have strong development, and your opponent is just running with some flimsy shape. So just this difference in one move actually does change the game that dramatically. And this is the difference between giving some life and being a little generous and playing a bit more aggressively. Interesting, interesting. Okay, this way. Playing this way would be just a little bit better. You're sacrificing a stone anyways. Sacrifice in this direction. Your opponent now gets to choose exactly what they want to lose. If they play this way, then you'll play in and destroy everything they developed. They're going to get a wall of influence here. And this gets a little bit weaker, but given the surrounding support, I would say you should be happy with it anyways. This is still a very good way to go. So this is just a different way of thinking about it. Because with this, not that they really could have come down, could they? Yeah, that one's not going to work, but I still prefer it on that side. It just takes away the future possibility. Okay, so if they are going to do that, they can't net it. So because it can't be netted, then you could have saved it. There's going to be a liberty shortage here. That's there's nothing your opponent can do about killing all of this. Can't capture that and can't capture that. Yeah, so that's so a couple of possibilities on this one. So essentially running with it, running up is going to be your best bet on this one. Run towards your supporting stone, and just maybe, no, it looks like as long as you run into your own stones, take the ladder all the way, but also black's a little weak here, but I like taking the ladder all the way because then you have cutting points through and through. This still works. Here's what I like about this shape. Let's see, ladder. They need an auto ladder button. That would save so much time. Oops. Ta-da! Gets pretty close. We could have gone this way, but then we're short one liberty. So because we're short one liberty, then you can come through and start cutting to bits, and it doesn't matter what they do. You're going to have all the power now. That's okay. I read ladders wrong on a regular basis. I like to avoid them because I don't like them. If they could be played against me and they work in my favor, I like them, but I just try to avoid them anyways because they are very problematic. It's too many things to worry about on the board as it is. So there's ways to play otherwise. We have a what now? Okay, so this one here, this is good. So this shape here, this is a dumpling shape. This is an incredibly heavy shape. The problem that many would have with the dumpling shape is, where are your eyes? What do you have here? Nothing. Nothing at all. You have just a very heavy shape. So that's not what you want to have. Just hypothetically, say you had a stone here, and white plays something else. You get this advantage of attacking this group directly. There's a lot of cool things that are going to happen with it. Just hypothetically something like this. There's no way to live. Yeah, black might get something over here, but this isn't going to be able to live successfully because it's just too heavy. There's no nothing good going on. Like this here, these are known as light shapes. This is a nice framework to have. Dumplings are only good for dinner. So this here doesn't have much going on with it other than it's just a clump of stones. And a clump of stones is bad for you, but good if you could force your opponent into a clump. So this is good, because you forced your opponent into a clump. Oh, that is true. Dumplings don't have cutting points. This is an interesting situation. A little bit of an issue here that can be corrected through this, which is good. I prefer this one here, slightly stronger, just like it could have helped over here. This is a very good one to have. This here... this is the problem that when you play, you know, SDKs and Dan players, they happen to know all the tricks. And you just don't want to be... You don't want those tricks to happen later on in the game. So sometimes it's just better to play the slightly stronger move here. However, in this one here, it's... I don't mind a Hane every now and then. They are good to have, but it does leave a cutting point open. And we don't want to leave cutting points open. Cutting points are... that's what gets us into trouble in the first place. So there's a time to play like this, and there's a time to play like this. And this would have been a time to play like this. Not only is this going to be necessary for black, it's going to be necessary for black because if white gets this move, then it's going to be overdeveloped and clumpy and probably going to die. So, black is going to have to make these moves. The advantage here, you did have a little bit of an issue in here for the cutting points, but now it is significantly better defended, more so than it was before. So with this lack of cutting point, then you do fix up this issue in here earlier, and this now becomes a very, very nice extension because you get 3 stones, 3 spaces, so that's just gravy on your behalf. So really the difference is sometimes it is better to play just that little bit stronger. You don't always have to keep pressure on your opponent. And you know what? Maybe they are going to make a mistake. Maybe they do make a mistake, something like this. And you do get to have some fun with it. And just maybe, we'll say that lives. Because they want that to live, maybe this will die. So it's just those kind of things to look out for. And so from here, kind of does the same thing, but we have this to aim at, and this is not what we want. So the cutting begins. Cutting gets defended. Yeah, it's not bad. Let's see, what could black do differently here? This is sometimes a good move to have. Yeah, this was a troublesome shape for black to begin with. Just the way that the approach happened in there. All the way from over here. Yeah, it's too bad white got the first move. Yeah, we're not going to get into that. Maybe just coming in this way. And play just a little bit lighter. This could have been beneficial for subatomic, and then because there's still the possibility of some shenanigans over here for black to peep and then come in. White would still have to fix that. So sometimes lighter play is better. If you'll notice, other than this little skirmish that happened in the corner, the middle of the game hasn't started yet. There's not a lot of battles. So with this is just settling your shape. Black took this, white took that, black took this, white took that. White's over here, black's over here, and then we're fine. We're fine because we have very light shape with a lot of possibilities. We haven't settled it because of well, there will be. But we haven't settled it because of a lot of fighting yet. And from here, this is already some... them's fighting whites. Yeah, well, this generates... this is the beginning of the battle. So the Fuseki is done now. We've now gone into Chuban. We're in the middle of the game. And we're pressing. I gotta say, white's pressing very well here. Like, he did a very good job pressing towards us. Could something be done here? This is devastating. But that's an endgame move. Maybe not to attack. Well, it is attackable because it is in some pretty terrible shape here. No, you shouldn't think of killing. However, there's always the possibility. This is I wouldn't say this is thinking of killing as much as it's thinking of trying to make them defend, because if they don't play these moves... So that's the thing, you're not trying to kill, you're trying to make your opponent move. So if your opponent did this, then we have many more problems as the game develops. So it's just how many more moves your opponent's going to have to play to make this live. But then you get all this great influence on the outside, so you wouldn't even have to play that move. That's fine, that can stay there. and then you can come out and get this nice territory boxy shape. This is still not alive yet. You can come back and influence this. So you're not thinking of killing this group here. All you're doing is making moves that make your opponent move. And that's what you want. So if you have something like this, you get a nice big wall, lots of good influence here, and your opponent now has to think of life. Not that you want to kill them, that you just want to force them to live as small as possible, and you want to get the most out of that. So good territory on both sides. Yeah, Sente moves. Get as much Sente as you can. Alright, this would be a good time for the game to fall apart. This is pretty deep. Okay, this is a similar problem that we had in the previous game. A lot of people like to come up on the higher line like that. It's usually better to do something like this, because this takes away the eye space immediately, and then now you can... something like this. So now you're just reinforcing all this territory. Not worried about territory over here yet. This is going to be attackable, but this is just now developing you. Ooh, that was a bad cut. The problem with attacking. The more one attacks, the weaker they got. Huh. That could be good first. There's lots to disconnect over here. And it's just going to be life anyways. Okay. The shape is pretty heavy. And it's extra dumpling, but it actually did work out. Because this was the mistake. Not a good one to have in this situation here. Because, well, there's nothing behind it. The peep, this would have been good. Peep like that, then come up, and then you have the support, and then if all goes as planned, that you can squeeze it out on this side, kill something over here. This is going to be the last effort for it to die. But at least if it lives, just maybe this can live small enough. If this lives small enough, then black gets some pretty good influence. But let's see, what else could we have done? Oh, it was played that way? No, that could be wrong. So this is the same but different. No, I think if anything, it would have to start from here. And then maybe on this side. So... well, kind of. This shape was... it's difficult... difficult to attack. There's a lot of things that work against. Like you have to know where your life is. Is your opponent spread too thin? Like this would be a spread thin enough that just maybe, if all goes as planned, black would collapse instead. It's just because of the direct attacks, and it's all because of where it starts as well. So that's the difference between playing up here and playing just back just enough. And like I said, you're not always going for the kill, but you're just chasing your opponent. The more your opponent runs, the stronger you get. Because this is now completely worthless. There's no eyes. You're not killing it. You're just making sure it can't develop and it can't destroy. And that would have saved a lot of trouble later on, because underneath here, there's a fight for life. If it went this way, you would have got life over here, and black would have just settled, and everybody's happy and content. But yeah, the more you directly attack something, the stronger it gets. And there were a lot of direct attacks. There was a lot of mistakes in the direct attacks. And even something like this could have happened. I think we covered something similar before. But all you're doing here is creating bad shape for your opponent. Well, they created bad shape for themselves, but you're creating bad shape for your opponent. So every time you do something like this, we'll say this is actually the more common move because it's a mistake. So we'll start from this. Cutting points. One there, couple there. There you go. It's out. It's alive. So the more it got attacked, the weaker your opponent was, and the stronger you become. Because you already have the one eye here. All you got to do is make that second eye. The other possibility is something like this, and it's going to have a similar outcome. And now you have an eye here and an eye here. So it's pretty safe. And this has to be fixed as well. So it's not like black could really play too much out there, because we still have the same weakness. Every time you poke, every time you push through a weakness like this, you create that many more problems for your opponent. If they come over here to try and fix, you're out now. Like it's going to be very difficult to try and do anything here as black. Same thing. It's your opponent weakens themselves the more they chase like this, because these are all very direct. You see, the black stones are right up against the white stones. This is the wrong way. Yeah, this is Mr. Alex's game. So Mr. Alex was white, and for this to come out the way it did was absolutely great. So the two methods of attacking are right up against the stones all the time, or just pull back a little bit. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff, but the thing is, and then so the point of view is when. So now Mr. Alex is 21k. If you're playing somebody who's 10k, and the 10k was white, this is what's going to happen. This is what the 10k is going to do to you. It's going to keep poking through, creating all these weaknesses, so that you really have no choice but to decide what's going to live now. But other than that, I gotta say that that's very exciting stuff. I gotta say, as a DDQ, you do have some very good instincts here. Anybody else have something that they want peeked at? Let's see, it's almost noon o'clock. My time anyways. Usually I get a bunch of requests by this time of day, but 9, 10, 11. How about that? 2 hours. I'm almost breaking records here. My skill level. That's a tough one. Before I retired almost 10 years ago, I had reached 5 Dan on KGS. I was playing in a lot of tournaments. Things were going quite fantastic back then, but due to some trouble, I did have to give up Go. And coming back, I was 10Q. I've reached 3 Dawn recently, a couple of times on OGS, but I can't seem to maintain it. I got back to it again recently, and now I'm back down to 7Q, so I don't know what the heck's going on. So I am everywhere between 10Q and 5 Dawn right now. Take your pick, and that's what I'll be for the day. Oh heck, yes they are. My KGS rank, I did reach 1 and 2 Dawn again recently. Right now I'm sitting more stably at 3Q there. So Dragon Go server, I'm 4Q over there, just about to hit 3Q. See, I can't play on Fox because I use Ubuntu and they don't have a Linux client yet. I don't have a Windows machine. I don't know, maybe we have too much cheating running rampant with some of the players, which is why we can't do well in OGS. Too many people using AI. It runs well under Wine? I will have to give that a shot. I haven't had much success trying to run any applications under Wine. I was going to get a VM going, but I don't feel like paying for a license for Windows right now. All right. No, those are going on now. That one was just... Oh. So I guess Subatomic and Mr. Alex are rivals, is that it? Oh, is that the probe that keeps on looking for AIs that are running? I know there's a few clients out there now that are looking for anybody running AIs in the background. Well, I'll have to give it a shot. I'll have to tinker with it a bit more, but I don't... Oops. Like I said, I have... I have this hate-hate relationship that has to do with anything Microsoft, so I've been avoiding it like the plague, and like I said, trying to get anything to run through Wine just hasn't worked. I even had some difficulty. I had Steam running on my my box here for a bit, and I just... Trying to get some games that are made for Linux to work for Linux just aren't worth it, even with Steam. So I do have a gaming laptop that runs Windows. I'm just not too keen on using something as powerful as that just to play on Fox. I think I've been okay with OGS. What does Fox have to offer that nobody else has to offer? Or is it just another server, just like being on OGS, IGS, KGS, DGS, LG? They're all kind of the same, aren't they? Oh. The hell would I do against a higher ranked player? Oh man, that means I'm gonna have to learn how to play better. Well, I'll give it a go. Let's see what I have here. Sudo install line. Well, let's see if we can get that installed later on. Maybe I can do one of them's. Well, they have a good population, but is their ranking system accurate? Like, I know a few people who play on Fox. I actually have like one of my senseis. He's 9D on Fox, but he's not 9D anywhere else. Like he sits like maybe 3D on KGS. I don't know. So that was the issue that I had with Fox. Ah, they all jumped ship and went over to Fox, did they? Well, one of these days I'll give it a shot. I don't know if I'm in it to be that much better anymore. Well, I like the people that I have on OGS. There's a pretty good community. A lot of us know each other. I don't mind getting better every now and then. It's okay to be better at this game. I know a lot of people want that drive to. I don't know if I ever want to be B5 Dan again. You know what? I have fun in person. It's unfortunate that my local Go Club did get disbanded. Not just because of this SARS-CoV-2 stuff that's hitting us, but we had disbanded a couple years back already, and you know I really do miss playing in person. And now I moved to a small town, and of course nobody around here plays, so I'm forced to play online. I don't get to hold the stones in my hand anymore. Well, I'm gonna call this one to a close. I would like to thank everybody for tuning in today. If anybody has any reviews during the week that they're gonna want to get in, then every Saturday I'm gonna broadcast. That's about all I have time for right now. Never seen a Go board in real life? Well, if there's anything you do before you die, make sure that when you see one that it's going to be shell and slate. I used to have a shell and slate set before I gave it away. I have one small glass set just in case I get a visitor. Oh, so you are very new to this. Yeah, I don't mind a Yunzi stone. I actually got quite attached to the Ing set. They came with that wonderful carrying case that always counts the stones for you when you're done. You could still get a 9.2 millimeter stone, and they're weighted in the middle. Yeah, single convex do have their place. It all depends on who I play. I actually have some people who do prefer the single convex. I'll keep those around. You play your variations upside down, don't you? Yeah, so yeah, they do come in handy that way. With the Japanese stones, you have to memorize every damn thing and hope that you got it back to the original position. But that's why I still keep paper Kifu with me. It's always good to have these things. Maybe one day we're all not going to be stuck indoors anymore and we can have real clubs again and go to real life tournaments again. Won't that be the day? But I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend and I hope to see everybody again soon.